IGN, get that backup ready, please. Just in case. Technician. All right. Looks like we've got a lot of people here. This is the third sales meeting that we're actually having in the server. And today, I didn't expect we were gonna be at this stage yet. But we're actually gonna be reviewing one of the intermediates sales call recordings, see what was actually going down. It's actually really long, right? It's a 40-minute call, and it's not even finished. It's like the first part, and there's like two parts. The second part, I don't think he sent it. No, he didn't send it over. Octavian didn't send it over. He sent over the first part. Yeah, you can grab popcorn if you want. Um, and yeah, we're just going to be going through it, just going to be looking at some of the main parts, some of the things you can do better. And yeah, and for those who just joined in, what I did say before was, I'm going to be giving you guys a sneak peek into some of the resources that I've been making on the back end. And also, I'm going to be revealing who's actually going to get some extra XP for this week because of, the engagement and everything that they've done in the sales channels. So to kind of get started now with, Octavian's call, right? Some of the things that I noticed, there were like some really good things and there were some bad things. And the good things were that he was using, some of the stuff that he saw being mentioned in the last sales meetings. And that's the things that I always tell you guys, go through the sales meetings, right? Look at other people's recordings, get that kind of inspo, right? And then, use it again because it works and it helps you out, right? And you're actually going to see how important this is. So if I was to just screen share right now, here we go. Can you guys see my screen? Oh wait, not this. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Right, awesome. So this is his one. So I'm going to be showing you, we're going to go through it now. So we're just going to go right into it. So, for those who wanted to grab their popcorn, grab it. For those who need, their notepads to take some notes, get them out because this one's going to be pretty crazy. Just going to skip it to when he actually gets to the call. Also, just before we start, for anyone who has any questions, midway, by all means ask. I'm gonna have like a little break in between, and throughout the meeting, we're just gonna have those little moments where we can just discuss about sales in general. So let's get into it.
Hey Cesar, do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. How's it going, bro?
Going
The
good,
mic
man.
was a little
Just
bit
came back
bad
from the gym, he did some weights,
on
and
the
now
prospect side.
ready
So
to get some work done. How about you?
same thing, man. Just finished working out, showering up. What time is it over there where you're at?
Yeah, for me is 8:54 p.m.
Okay. Do you stay up typically late, or what's yours?
I mean, I usually wake up at around 6 and I go to bed at like 10, 11.
Okay.
How about you?
Oh, opposite. I go to bed later, probably like 1, 2 in the morning. And wake up usually like, 9, 10, something like that. But
Yeah, awesome.
all good, man. All good. Because you're like, I'm ready to get some work done. And I'm like, shoot, he's ready to get some. Isn't it nighttime for him?
Yeah. Yeah, so regarding the call in the first part, we'll talk more about your current situation and the point B, the point that you wanna be at, and towards the end of the call, we will just see if there's any way I could help you, providing some value. Would that help you?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
all right, I'm just gonna pause there. So it's been the first 2 minutes. Can anybody make some comments about that? What they noticed before I actually tell you guys what happened within that little snippet.
I'm not too sure because I couldn't understand a single thing he was saying. Actually, it was too bass boosted to understand what he was saying.
You didn't understand what the prospect was saying, or what? You know,
The prospect was saying.
oh, the prospect. Okay, I'm gonna just have those captions in there. But I know the mic is just really bad on his side, right? It's like that throughout the whole sales call. Um, but you know, throughout those 2 minutes, what I'll tell you is that they asked, you know, where he's at, you know, what they did, you know, before the sales call, you know, what time it is, you know, in each other's regions and all of that, right? And I said this in the last sales meeting, right? And Wolf talked about this as well. It's just small talk, right? When you go right into the call and you start being like, oh, hey, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, I can hear you. Like, oh, hi, how are you? How's your day been? Yeah, what's the weather like over there? Where are you from? What's the time over there? Nobody cares, bro. Like, nobody cares, right? Like, you could just say, you could say, oh, my cat died, right? And then they'll be like, oh, that's so sad and blah blah blah, right? But then 2 minutes later, like 3 minutes later, you'll just go right into the sales, into the main bits. So instead of just doing that, you could just save time and just get on with it, right? It's just so much better for you because both of you guys have just set an agenda, right? It's not time to, you know, bullshit around. It's time for you to, you know, talk business. So one of the main things you guys need to note is when you get on a sales call, just don't have any small talk. Have as little small talk as possible, right? And the best way to actually just do that, right, is, you know, you come in the sales call, and this is, you know, what I do, right? I'll tell you guys what I do. I come in the sales call, right? I don't even say anything, right? I don't even say anything. First 4 seconds, I don't say a single word, right? The guy's gonna be on the call, or the girl, whoever, right? The prospect. Be like, hey Hamza, can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. And then they're like, oh hi, how are you? Oh, yeah, I'm good. And then I say literally what Octavian said. So it looks like, you know, what I've got here on, you know, my schedule, on my calendar, on my diary, that we actually booked this call because of XYZ, you know, and then we're just gonna see where you're at from point A, at point A, right, and point B where you're trying to get to. Just kind of see that gap, and then maybe towards the end of the call, if you see that, you know, there's, you know, something here that we can work with, then we can look at, you know, what's to come next. Would that help you, right? That's so much more better because, you know, Jordan Belfort talks about this as well a lot, right? Within the first 4 seconds, right, you need to be sharp. You need to, you know, look and act the part of, you know, an expert, and then you just, you know, just really be on ball with everything, right? And the best way for you to do that is to not just go, oh, yo, I don't know, let me just give you a name, like Blake, yo, can you hear me? Be like, yeah, I can hear you. How's your day been? And blah, blah, blah. Just go through all of that. You don't need that, right? And going into the thing of building rapport doesn't mean, okay, just build a foundation level with your prospect over a call. Find something in common. No, 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 no. For you to build a relationship, for you to build a rapport with any prospect, you need to get them to trust you, right? You need to get them to trust you. When you go to a doctor's office, you don't find out, um, what sneaker brand they like, right? You don't look at what car brand they like. You don't talk about cars with them. You don't talk about random stuff, right? You sit there, you listen to what he's saying, right? You listen to the questions that he asks. You know, he listens to you, and you build trust like that. That's building rapport. So let's carry on, right? And let's see, with this two-ish minutes, right, of small talk. And this one line, right, that took Octavian 15 seconds to say, right? Let's look at the return, right?
Sure. I
Just
mean,
keep watching.
I've got some ideas and some stuff too. I kind of wanted to hear in mind just to give you an idea because I saw your video. Honestly, bro, like I am, I'll show you. I'm going to show you some of my. I'll show you some of my stuff later. But basically, I'm a pretty good copywriter myself, right? When I'm actually trying to be, and sometimes, like as in the case with the stuff that you were pointing out, that funnel that I have, on that page and that opt-in, it's a little bit more broad, purposefully, and because there's the traffic that gets there, it's not as, everyone that goes to visit my website falls in different categories. I have network marketers, right, who are people who, that's like my main, niche of training people who are network marketers. Then I also have people who might want to just hire me for consulting or coaching, and maybe they're not necessarily in network marketing. And then I have other people that, I market other services, speaking, and all different types of things. So one of the things that I've struggled with is how to capture all of that in such a condensed space and then also have an opt-in that is very strong and catchy and generates leads. So I'm in the midst of creating one, right now. So I have a whole different funnel that I've been working on. So that's why I haven't paid much attention to that. But it's almost done. It should probably be done this week, based on everything that we're doing. And it is badass. I mean, I can show you. And
All right, I'm gonna pause there. Do you guys see the return of just 15 seconds of the right question? I'll say that again. Octavian literally spent 15 seconds saying, we're just going to look at your situation, see if we can help you, and then towards the end of the call, we're going to look at some, the next possible steps. Would that help you? 15 seconds. The return was 1 minute 36 seconds of the prospect talking about, I'm trying to be like this, right? My main niche, right? That's another question. You guys are like, okay, so what's your ideal client? What niche? What's your niche like, and all of that? No, Octavian didn't have to ask that question. The prospect said that himself. So that's a situational, the situational details that you need to take down. And he went straight into a problem, his struggle, right? So for 15 seconds, you get a return of 1 minute 36 with the right questions. You see how powerful it is to not go into small talk and actually find find those frameworks that actually work, these NEPQ frameworks that actually work, right? That actually, they don't even manipulate or trick. They're just genuine questions, right? That reverse engineer everything so that the prospect would just commit, and they would just tell you everything without you even saying much, right? Right here, Octavian is showing, like, he's literally, this is another thing, and this is also what's going to, keep beginners at beginner level, and, intermediates at that intermediate level, and advanced people at that advanced level. And it's his level of just being patient and listening to what the prospect has to say. A whole minute and 36 seconds. So, if you're going to note down anything, it would be literally that line that Octavian said, right? So we're just going to look, if you want to brief note it, that's fine. I could send it out as a text later on, like a text message, in one of the channels. But just those main points of him saying, we're just going to look at your situation, where you are at now, that point A, and the point B that you're trying to get to, so we can see that gap. And we can also see if we could be of any assistance to you. And then maybe towards the end of the call, if you feel that this might be something that would work with you, we can look at the next possible steps. Would that help you? Watch the tonality there as well, right? You don't want to be super, super like exaggerating everything. Be like, oh, would that help you? You're just gonna, scare off the prospect. Let's carry on. If anyone has anything to say about that, you can leave some comments or any questions. No? Okay, we'll carry on.
Again, the copy isn't there, completely. But this is what what I'm thinking, and I'll show you because my guy wrote some copy, so you can see. Actually, I'll let you just look at some of it. I'll share my screen here. All right. Let's do.
Okay, so this call, right? Because I watched it beforehand. A lot of this call is really based around, some of the stuff just related to the project that Octavian and the prospect is going to be working on and all of that. It's long, and in terms of the sales meetings and how we actually go about this with these recordings, is just look at, not just the objections, but key, parts that are super key for you to actually take notice of during the sales call, which you can use later on, when you're trying to pitch, when you're trying to, connect some dots together, setting up your offer, booking another call, and so on. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to actually skip to around a few minutes later.
It takes
where here
I've created a
the prospect is going to start talking about another problem, which was that it takes a long time for him to write copy, right? Because I'll give you a little bit of background on this situation. It was he did write a bit of copy. He paid a person to do copy as well. But at the moment, a lot of the copy on this page here was his. And some of the other copy that he's written, he just talks about how it takes a long time for him to do.
Basically, it's a custom training course that I'm creating the copy for now. That when people, this is going to be basically one of my new giveaways. I also have another course, two other courses that I created. One is called Unlimited Leads, where it gives you 50 free lead sources. That's going to be free. And then it's going to have an upsell to buy a calling, a program that teaches you what to do with the leads, and then another one that helps you to build your confidence. So where I'm at in my life and my business, and I'll open up another window here, the biggest challenge that I have is just the time it takes for me to write these, the copy for the follow-up sequences, and so that's the part that for me, it takes me like so freaking long. I'm loading in another window, another example here.
See that? That's another thing to keep note on, right? When your prospect starts talking about, some of the problems and the challenges that they face, you need to take note of that, because later on, right? Let's say when you're trying to pitch or something, and, if you literally just figured out, it just takes them a long time to do this, and you're really just trying to get some work off their plate, right? And there's good money and you're going to do your offer, you could be like, okay, so, after, just looking at everything, we can see that, just to get you from that, from, to get you to close that gap that we established as quick as possible. Also, keeping in mind, because, the amount of workload there is with this, and how it just takes up all of your time to get through this thing that you got to do, and that thing that you got to do, and this thing that you got to do, then you go into your pitch and then your offer. See how much better it is for you to put your offer that way, where you talk about all the previous problems that the prospect has mentioned, right? And how to get him to actually solve those problems, right? And how to overcome these problems. You needed, this is the offer, this is just the barrier behind it, just the offer, and that makes your offer seem so much more valuable than anything else in front of the prospect's eyes. So whenever you have someone, whenever you're on a call with someone, you just hear them out and they just say, man, my biggest challenge is just this copied stuff. I don't get it. It's freaking long. I paid someone and, they didn't bring me results and all of that. You need to keep note of that for later on. One also thing that I want to mention on sales calls, and this is something you guys need to, like have that hardwired in your mind, right? You need to have this hardwired, is that whenever you're on a sales call, there's something called a certainty scale or spectrum, right? And that spans out from 1 to 100, right? And this certainty scale, it's literally a metric that shows how certain your prospect is in you. I'll say that again. It literally shows you how certain your prospect is with you and also your service and what you're offering, right? And why this is actually important is because when you're on a sales call at the beginning, your prospect isn't certain of you. Like they're not certain of, anything that you're offering. They don't know you. They don't know if they can trust you. And the goal should be that you need to get them as far as possible up in that certainty scale and get them as close to 100 as possible so that, they'll be more keen to buy. If I was to give you an example, it would be one plumbing service versus another one. There could be one, the prospect could say, yeah, they got some, they look like professionals. They look like they know what they're doing. They're not in a measly old van, that's like broken down. They've got proper branding, everything. They look like they got the right tools and all of that. They look like, they're trustworthy. They've been in the game, right? In the plumbing game for so long as well, compared to the guy who's at 0 on the certainty scale, who looks like some dirty person, hasn't washed his clothes and so hasn't washed his work clothes in so long, and he's got one pair of boots and it's ripped up and everything. He smells and all of that. That just gives you a figure of that certainty scale, where you would be. So why this is important is now, in terms of Octavian's situation, going back to that point of how good he is at just being quiet and listening to what the prospect has to say, the more he's doing that, appropriately, that, persistency and patience, the higher that figure goes on that certainty scale for him, right? So in terms of now, what you need to note down is just this, this scale, right? Just having it in mind that, the goal is to get them to be certain of me, and also the point of just being patient in the right, in the right way. Does anyone have any, comments that they want to make real quick, or any questions related to sales or anything that they've seen over this call? Nope. Okay.
So I can show you, like, these are our funnels. Do you have any experience in writing inside email campaigns like Infusionsoft? Have you ever used Infusionsoft, for example?
Infusionsoft, I've actually not used that, but I've worked with a few softwares, for example, Active Campaign and a few more. But yeah, I have experience with email marketing. That's usually what I do with my clients because it's basically passive income, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
may I give you one quick suggestion about your landing page?
Yeah, the one that I just had up a minute ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me show it again.
Yeah, so from my experience, usually landing pages with only one CTA usually work better, right? So one thing that you could do here.
So here, right, there is two sides to this bit in terms of what Octavian's done. The good side is that he's just giving right off the bat free value, right? He's giving even a suggestion is valuable, right? Because there's even a suggestion. If he was to go back and not hire Octavian and say, okay, I got this from the call, I'm just gonna see what I can do with it, and he ends up making thousands and thousands of dollars, then that's a pretty valuable free value. So if your prospect ever shows you something like that, right, where you can instantly spar out something, you can put it forward, right? There's no harm in doing it, because it's instantly just free value. They can see that you're an expert that way, and that's one of the most important things of getting your prospect as certain as possible with you, right, with working with you. But in terms of how you would actually say something like this, right, it would really depend on your tonality again, right? Because if you're just bold and upfront, and just just say, oh, can I make a quick suggestion? They'll be like, yeah, sure, but he's like, so he did suggest it, but it's like he's kind of dissing what I currently got, right? And you don't want to come across that way. So you want to make sure that your tonality is on point, and that doesn't mean going really low, but being at a neutral level. And this gets better with time, right? So could I make a quick suggestion about the landing page that you have there? See how that sounds a little bit different? That doesn't sound too bold and pushy. It just sounds casual. Yeah, sure. What do you got? So I noticed that, with landing pages, from what I've experienced, is that then you go into it. So if you ever want to give upfront free value, that's really just the rough ballpark of how you want to go with it. Now from here of the call all the way to like how I said before, this call is super like it just goes into all of the work and everything, right? So what I'm gonna do actually, I'm just gonna skip to like 8 minutes later, right? Where he actually
Yeah,
starts
so
talking a little bit more
that's the
about
type of stuff
his
that
needs.
I personally, if I trusted someone or thought they would be good enough, that's what I could see them doing for me in the world of copywriting. Me saying like, and by the way, do you go by Octavian or what do you go by?
Yeah, Octavian. Tell me Octavian.
Octavian. Okay, cool. Got it. So, how do you say your first name though?
Now my first name is Octavian, and Rotaru is the second one. So
What did you say it was?
Rotaru. Rotaru.
Okay, got it. And that's your last name?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a strong name, bro. Holy shit! You sound like you sound like your name's like from freaking movie 300 or something like that, man. All right. I feel like that's like a Spartan name. All right. All right. So the reason I'm sharing some of this stuff is I know you might have had some ideas on what you and me.
See that there, guys? That's, if you guys didn't catch on to that, that's just a little bit more small talk. And this small talk is not, just to open, it's kind of to open something. I'll get into a little bit more depth with it. So, at the start of the call, you had that small talk, right? Oh, how are you? Oh, what time is it? And blah, 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 right? That small talk, people think it's to just ease into a sales call in your first question, but that's just a time waster, right? It gets people off track. And that small talk, sometimes it messes up with your tonality, it messes up with your flow, right? It messes up with everything. Because if I'm at the top of my lungs laughing and, talking about some viral video of some idiot that I saw on the street, and it just so happened that the prospect saw it as well, and we start laughing about it, then in my first question, when I want to talk about that situation, my my body is just more used to exerting more, just more tone than what it should be doing, and that's what I don't want. And then in terms of this small talk now, this was more because of one of the problems that Octavian has with his sales calls, and that's that he's too patient, right? He listens too much. Now, up until now, I said that you need to be a good listener, which is fine, but I did say that you need to be a good listener appropriately. And all this 8 minutes that I skipped was just Octavian being quiet and just letting the prospect run through everything, right? Like he was dead silent. Like you didn't even know if he was, listening to you. Like Octavian could have been playing a game the whole time, right? And this guy would just keep on talking and you wouldn't even realize it. So the reason why he went through this small talk was really just to wake Octavian up and just see if he had something to say, if he was still there, right? And that's one element of doubt. Remember what I said before. Within the first 4 seconds of every sales call, you want to show them that you're sharp, right? And an expert. And to do that, you do need to be a listener, but you need to show that you're there at all times. And you also need to, and the best way to do that is to have verbal cues, right? So, just had a sip of water, but if you're on a sales call and the prospect starts talking about their funnel, and you're like, oh, okay, so with that, yeah, see that verbal cue? That literally it's irrelevant, but it's a verbal cue that you need. Because if you don't have it, then it looks like you're asleep, right? You're asleep with eyes wide open. And you don't want to come across that way. Because that just puts you even more down the certainty scale. Does anyone have any comments about that or any questions? Awesome, makes sense. No, okay. And one more thing. This is more of like an interactive question. Has anyone, I'm sure you guys know that, the guy who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, the Kiyosaki guy. Yeah. You know how he talks about good debt and bad debt, right? Like there's those viral videos. On the sales call, there is good small talk and there is bad small talk. The good small talk, right? I'm gonna go with the good one, not the bad one. Because the bad one you guys already know. The bad one is, just filler words here and there that you don't need, or filler conversations about, oh, how old are you, or, where are you from, all of that stuff. I don't need to get into that. The good small talk are verbal cues. And verbal cues could be anything, right? Like if the prospect starts talking about maybe his landing page, right? Or his email marketing, how his automation currently looks like, even if you just told him, oh wait, could you just rewind back a bit and walk me through that, he will say it again. Maybe it might take another minute, but it's better to waste a minute there than to waste a minute talking about where the guy is bloody from. Does that make sense? because that just shows you that, okay, you're focused, right? You're focused and you're looking to help this guy, and you want him to just say that back again, right? You just want him to say it again and clarify it. Or could you say, or maybe if he says something that's a little bit vague, you could say, could you expand on that a little bit? He's like, yeah, sure. So, and then he goes into it. It just shows you that you're much more of an expert, because that's what a doctor does, right? If you walk in and you're like, oh, I'm having a lot of pain on my knee, or like, I go to the gym every day, but I'm just getting some pain on my back. He's like, wait, hold on. When you say pain in your back, right? Could you like expand on that a little bit? Where in your back? Or what part of your leg do you feel the pain? Does that kind of give you a little bit more context? Just let me know, put an emoji out or whatever, or say something, whatever. Awesome. So just to kind of no, like we're not at the end yet, but just to kind of summarize the stuff that we've gone through is that you need to know about good small talk and bad small talk. With the bad small talk being, the openings, where are you from, and so on. The good small talk being those verbal cues here and there that still play a very valid role. Tonality is a big thing in everything over the sales call. Persistency and patience wherever that's appropriate, that's also important. And also having those NEPQ, those neuro emotional persuasion questions, having those set down, right? And I'm going to be going on to that a little bit closer towards the end with the sneak peek that I'm going to be giving you guys. So in terms of the rest of the call, there's only like 3 points that I'm going to be going into. And then we can go into like a little Q&A thing before I go to, the sneak peek and, the XP review. So I believe it was towards it was around here. This was important.
Yeah.
See how much of that gap is just
Reason,
Octavian.
so-
He just kept talking about he was just quiet the whole time, right? He just like the guy's just talking about everything and he's just quiet. So that gives you a little bit of like visual figure that you shouldn't be doing that.
So I'm willing to feel you out. That was the purpose of this conversation for me. Here's the opportunities that are on the table. Here's the different, things. There's an opportunity to grow here. If you happen to, get in at the ground floor, which is, that type of opportunity, which is right now. As far as me, the challenge for myself is I don't necessarily feel comfortable, paying someone, hoping that they're going to be good. Because I've done that before. The first copywriter I hired, I didn't know a lot about, copy, and everyone.
Right here. Here's an example of where you can put a verbal cue. Literally saying, oh, you had a copywriter before? See that verbal cue that shows concern? That's super powerful. And he's like, yeah, I had a copywriter, right? And then he could be like, oh, you won't believe what happened, right? But this guy talks about his experiences as well.
I was like, oh yeah, man, you gotta, pay a copywriter that'll be way better than you. And I hired a girl, and she was good, except, I paid her all this money, and it was like when she turned back what she wrote to me, I was like, I don't really like this too much. And I was like, fuck, I just spent all this money because she came highly recommended to hire this woman, because everyone told me I should get a copywriter. I freaking hired her. I give her my money. She gives me back the work. It was late. She was behind schedule. Like, it wasn't good quality. But I had already paid her half of the money up front. And I was just like, this sucks. This sucks. Because she worked a bunch on it, and, and I was just not satisfied. And I paid money for it up front. So I was like, fuck, man, like, I just lost that money. So I kind of have never hired another copywriter since, because that's the biggest concern.
You know how Tyson talks a lot, like this was one of his meetings where, like one of his lounge calls, right, where he talks about in the copywriting game, there's a lot of chance, right? In the game, people get lucky a lot, right? They'll go like 3 months, 6 months, even 12 months without landing a single client, right? And then towards the end, they'll land the one client that will pay him like 3K a month right off the bat, you know? Now, it could be even throughout that span, they never had any experience, right? They studied copy, but they were never out on the real field, and now they're just thrown into a pit of like a huge retainer. This is kind of that scenario because you'll never really get a chance when the prospect just goes into his emotional state, his feelings, and all of that. But what Octavian could have done here, and what would have been so much better, would just be if he just said, "Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. That seems like a big problem for you, right?" Or, "Oh, and wait, hold on. How long did that go for?" See, just those concerning questions, right? Those concerning any PQ questions, those are super important because when you ask them, it shows that you're sharp, that you're an expert, that you're on ball with everything. And then again, when you want to go towards an offer, right? You can just go through that. You can just talk about it, right? Like if he says, okay, but maybe the price might be like the price is something, um, and then you hit an objection, you hit a response and you start talking about the price, then you go back to the offer and you're like, okay, so with price being a big thing, then how would you know what copywriter to distinguish from so that you don't get into that position where you pay someone again and then the delivery sucks, or they just don't satisfy you again? What are you going to do then? That's an NEPQ consequence question right there for you guys. See how powerful that is, right? Because then they can't just say, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It shows, okay, this guy is actually concerned. He wants to help me out. And that gets them to commit so much more. So that's going through that's going through a scenario when the prospect talks about someone else, right? Some past experience, and then what you should do about it. It's the same thing with copy, right? With copy, when you try and make up a unique selling proposition, right? A USP that makes you different, right? Makes your brand, makes your product different. This is the live version of that. It's the live action, version of that, right? On the sales call, this is your unique selling proposition where you just go into it and you show the concern and you show it through these sort of questions that you're actually trying to help them. So in terms of, what's left with the rest of this call, it goes towards, I guess, towards the end, where it's around over here, because this call, it just went a lot into those landing pages and everything, right? And it also went into some of the email marketing and all of that. It was super long, guys. So if you want to look through it, you can, but I'm just going through the important bits. That's just so much more easier for you guys to pick out from.
Or general landing page with a custom training. Landing page, the custom training series, which
Watch this question.
allows them to
Yeah, I mean,
Wait, let me just go back a bit.
allows them to pick. Do you know anything about network marketing, man? Do you know that industry?
yeah, I mean, I've done I've done, I've never, worked for these type of niches. But I mean, I also work for, two other clients in the marketing niche. So yeah, I mean, with some research, I'm sure that, I can deal with that.
That right there, that filler question, because this guy is smart, right? This guy, this prospect, he's a salesman himself, right? He knows how the system works, but he left in a filler question and sort of a semi-objection at the end, just saying, "Oh, do you know anything about network marketing? Do you know anything about my niche? Do you know anything about my target audience, my niche, the market that I work in?" And there will be sometimes when you're going to be on a sales call and you may not have even a single link that that you can make with some of your past work, some of the free value that you've done. It could be that it's the first client that you ever have. And in terms of when they ask you a question like this, here's when you need to let like everything else aside. Don't lie about it, right? I know it happens a lot. There are some people who are gonna, they're not on the sales meeting, they're gonna go out, they're just gonna lie about it, be like, yeah, I worked for this guy, I got him this stuff. No. Be transparent, man. Just say, no, I haven't really worked within your market. I've done some stuff around this part and this niche and that niche. But could you unpack that a little bit for me? Could you unpack how your market works? By being transparent upfront with that, they are so much more understanding with the good tonality. And Octavian did that
But
really well
actually,
here.
may you tell me more about your ideal customers? I mean, some information that would help me more with, writing the copy, because you told me that, you had some problems with that in the past.
That's beautiful. He said, he went back to that point where the past copywriter didn't really do a good job. That shows concern again. You had some problems with that in the past. And then he goes straight into,
Yeah, so I've got so I mean I have like literally completed sheets and stuff on like what your avatar looks like and all that type of stuff for for some things like my higher ticket coaching thing that I'm going to be launching. But yeah, so let me just tell you who this is primarily for. Okay, so I don't know if you take notes while this is
Yeah,
going
I'll
or
take some
anything like
notes.
that. Or, yeah.
see that? If it was just Octavian, he was like, no, not really, and he just ended it off there. He was like, no, I haven't really worked in your industry. They could have just ended the call or go to the next part because this is part one. They could have just gone to the next part and then that's it. He would have never been able to have that opportunity of the prospect actually walking him through that. So it's super powerful because you just get that bonus information that is just beneficial for you. It's beneficial for you to get as much information as possible from your prospect over the first sales call because there might be times where you might need to book another one. And when you book another one, right, information degrades. This is something you need to keep note of, right? Every top salesman will tell you this. Whenever you delay anything on this, when you delay sales, like, sales, when you delay them, it just goes downhill. It just gets harder and harder for you to get back up because information degrades, right? So it's essential for you to get this is not just to do with like industry information, right? This is information with their problems, with their financial situation, with their past experience. All of that is essential for you to know, right? whether that's on the first call or the second call or the third call, but you need to know it as soon as possible, right? So that's another thing that you guys need to know down. So we've come towards the end of Octavian's sales recording, right? There's not really much left of it. He didn't really send me the second part, but does anyone have any questions around probably some parts of the sales call overall, or sales in general that they want to slide by me? Anything that they're looking to get as a resource, even some suggestions that they want in the channels, some things that we can work with. See, Roy Boy is typing. Like, if anybody wants to come on the mic and just say something, that's perfectly fine. And while he's typing that, I just want to let you guys know who, like, for those who just didn't see the announcements when I made it, every week, right? These sales meetings are gonna be here, right? Because throughout the week, we get a lot of sales calls going on within the server, right, between the members. But we always get like one or two who just step up and like, yeah, I want to get some more extra help, right, with sales. I want to get better. I want to see what some of the prodigies have to say. I want to see what Hamza has to say, or maybe what Tyson has to say. And with that, then we pick them out and we come on these sales meetings. So it's usually once a week. Sometimes it gets delayed, but yeah, every week we will be having these sales meetings, right? Or every 1.5 weeks. In terms of the XP thing, like the XP now and how you can actually get XP within the sales channels, I've actually implemented this just so that you guys can not only get better at sales, but get to that intermediate and advanced stage as soon as possible, right? Because when you get to even intermediate, there is a big difference. I'll tell you that. Like, I don't think there's anybody else from intermediate in this lounge, call right now, in the lounge right now. But the difference from copy, the difference from sales, it's so much different, and you can see it right here. Because from the other sales meetings that I've looked at, right, and the recordings, they're nothing like this one. Because in this one, we can see, we can see literal results from the frameworks that, we've gone through previously, right? So those were just two of the announcements. In terms of the XP thing now, I kind of forgot about it, but those who just, are super engaged in the sales, in the category, in the channels, those who just get onto one-on-ones with someone, even, if you want to leave a message in my DMs and be like, yo, Hamza, I just want to run through some of these things with you. Could you come on a quick call? There is no reason why I wouldn't spend some time with you guys just to help you guys out. I helped Ayan, right? And he was able to close, he made his first 1K. Literally just through a few notions and a little bit of direction, right? There was some other people who I came on a call with, and they got a lot of help as well, right? For example, Spegs. He didn't end up closing the deal because the prospect just, his situation was completely different in terms of his location and demographics and everything. Who else was it that I came on call? I think it was Eggroll as well. Eggroll got a lot of help as well, right? I went through his warm up, what he should do before a sales call, right? That's really important as well, preparation. So there's a lot of value for you guys to gain from it, right? And there's even more value because you guys can get the XP and get to the next stage, which is ultimately better for you, not just in sales, but in copy as well. So that's just some of the things that you guys want to think about. So Roy Boy is saying, I've heard different opinions on building rapport, that small talk is good in the beginning. So people won't be like, wow, I hardly even know you. Yeah, I totally understand that, right? People think that, oh, okay, I should be, I should find a way where I can resonate with the person. And, I actually, because, I came from Hustlers University, I came from the real world as well, right? So I was in the same boat as loads of other people, right? And I was told as well that you need to be like a doctor, but then you need to build rapport by, finding that common ground, right? But then I looked back and I was like, hold on. When I go to a doctor's appointment, when I go to a dentist appointment, when I go to an appointment with any expert, they don't ask me, oh, where did you come from? Where, how was your day and all of that, right? What did you do and all of that? Especially online, right? During the COVID period, there were those appointments as well that you would have over like Zoom and like that, where they would just consult you and tell you, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to go to the pharmacy and get yourself this. They never once asked me where are you talking to me from? What time is it where you're at? All this and that. They say, okay, so I'm just according to what I've got down on my clipboard, on my notepad, on whatever, on the system, on the computer, right? You're struggling with this. Is this still persisting, right? Is this still a persisting issue with you? They go straight into it, right? And they build trust with you like that by being an expert. So in terms of building rapport, if you're good, if it's to do with, building rapport, the best way possible is to show that you know your stuff, right? You know your stuff and that you're an expert and you're here to help them. That's the best way for them to trust you and build rapport. I don't want to be, a friend with my prospect. I just want them to trust me. That's all I want them to do, right? And they probably want the same as well. I've seen sales call reviews like that. Do you think if they did approach like Octavian, if they did an approach like Octavian, that would have been better than saying, "Hey, I'm a copywriter. This is what I do." I'm a complete beginner, so I would not know where to start. How could someone like me? How could you help someone like me? That question doesn't make much sense.
No, sorry about that. It's because that was supposed to be together with the message I sent before. So you answered that. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but just that, hey, I'm a copywriter, this is what I do. There are sometimes when you might come on a call and the prospect just doesn't know shit about copywriting, right? They'll be like, okay. And I actually lived through that was my first sales call, right? I was with a fitness coach, right? Some guy who did like kettlebell stuff. And it was towards, last year in 2022. And I was like super, super shaky. I didn't know nothing about warming up. I was super new in this server as well, right? Nobody knew me. And I was like, I went through that sales call outline. I was like, so what is your situation like at the moment? And it was like super cringe, right? When I think back about it, it was so cringe. And this guy is like, oh, you're a cop. Oh, what do you do though? What do you do? And I said, I write copy. That's boring as hell. The guy doesn't know what copy. He didn't know what copy was. So he's like, can you talk about that? Like, can you expand on it? What is copy? What do you do though? Like you said, you would help me get more engagement? Are you a marketer? Are you a salesman? What do you do? And if you were to just say, okay, I write emails, I write sales pages, I do this, I do that, they see no value in just saying that what you do, like upfront. The value is when you talk about the benefits that you bring, the result that you bring. You need to bring them into results, into result-based thinking. So if anyone asks you, okay, you say you're a copywriter or you're an email marketer, but what do you do? And one of the best ones, right, that I saw was during the COVID, like the COVID period. Like this would have been so amazing in the COVID period, this question. But it's still relevant for today because, we're seeing these, high gas prices and energy prices, right? Energy or inflation. It's all through the roof. Everything's through the roof. So you could say, how, with like inflation and everything, and, like the cost of just even, you know, living for even a day is just going through the roof. And the prospect's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, even the cost of just presenting yourself out there and getting that exposure for your brand has now become so expensive that, you know, there is little to no profit, you know, per acquisition for these businesses. And in terms of what you wanted to, I guess what you want to hear from what I do, I help, people to lower that cost per acquisition and help them get that exposure so that they can keep more of those profits rather than spend it all or lose it. See how that sounds so much better?
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Because if I was just to say I'm a copywriter, I do sales pages, I do this, I do that, that's so like robotic and scripted and metric and all of that, right? It's just boring. And it's got nothing to do with results-based thinking. So if that was like another question or that's another thought that you had, then you could take that sort of angle. But it's super different. Sometimes if the agenda is to do with getting them high quality leads, you just swap a few words around and just make the subject to do with high quality leads. Mike, you're late.
What'd I miss?
Well, thank you for expanding on that. Appreciate it.
No worries, no worries. Now, the last two bits of this sales meeting, Mike, you're super late. I'm never gonna forget this because this was Octavian's call, so it was important. You're gonna have to look at the recording. But yeah, in terms of the last two bits of this sales meeting, I guess it would be pretty fair for me to reveal who gets the XP for this week. And, the reason why I'm actually going to give the XP to this person is not just engagement in the channels, right? That's nothing. By the way, if you post your sales recordings, that gives you like triple bonus points, right? So Mike's got some triple bonus points. And I remember there were two people who actually, use the sales calls, the voice channels, and they spent like an hour in there, and that's phenomenal. But I mean, this one guy, right? He came into my DMs and he was like, Hamza, I needed help. I had this objection, I had that. He came across this way, he came across that way. What about in sales calls in general when this happens? And that shows alone how much he values the next step as a copywriter. The next step as a copywriter, which is learning, sales. Because you could be an amazing copywriter, but if you don't know how to sell, then what are you going to do on the sales call? Right?
Right.
And for him to be like, I just want to learn this from early. I just want to learn this now. right? It was like, there is no way that this week that, I can't give this guy XP. And funny enough, right, we're actually reviewing his sales call now. So, Octavian isn't here, but he's already an intermediate and he's smashing it, right? So I think it's only fair that, for him to be super dedicated on this sort of thing, I'm going to give him some XP. 3 to 4 levels. So that's a lot, right? So yeah, that's one of the things. Now the next thing, it goes into the little sneak peek that I wanted to give you guys, right? Now I did say that, I was going to make some resources from the first sales meeting, right? I was going to make some resources for you guys to have a look through so that you guys can practice it and get better at sales. And on the back end, what I've actually been doing, I'll just cover this, was create a document of some of the most common sales objections that you will experience on a sales call, right? These are things that people just give, like they just throw it out there. It's common, it's super common. I'll tell you like 9 times out of 10, you will get one of these objections, right? And with the first one being an opt-out objection, right? So that could be, I think I'm going to need some time to think about this and then get back to you. Or I need some time to think this over. Or I need to go back and, gather my thoughts and see if this is the right fit for me. And in terms of this document, this goes through not only the response or the, what the analysis is behind the objection, right? It goes through, the effects of your response as well. So this document is literally sales gold for you guys, right? And I'm gonna give this out, right? I'm gonna make a channel, right? I'm gonna have this there alongside a bunch of other stuff. But after this call today, I need you guys to be a lot more, like so much more committed in these sales channels so that you guys can actually get to your next $300, $400, $1,000, $2,000. Because, if you guys don't do that, like, look at Tyson, right? You think he got those clients by not learning sales? There is no way. There's absolutely no way. You think that Zenos got to the top of the accelerated leaderboard without learning sales? There is absolutely no way. So you need to learn sales because you can outreach all you want, right? You can outreach, you can send 40, 50, 100 outreaches a day. But you can send free value as well. You can book as many calls. But it makes no difference if you can't close. So with that in mind, right?
Facts.
With that in mind, I'm gonna be releasing this. Not today, not tomorrow. I'll release it next week. But I will be hoping for some change from you guys. I will be hoping to see, the people who've been here, I'm expecting you guys to be in those channels. So I will be looking out for you guys. I've taken a note of all your names, right? I have access to like the server logs and everything, so I can see what you're doing. Don't think I don't see what you're doing, right? I can see if you're wasting time. I can see if you're spending time, even in, reviewing copy or doing all of that. I can see it all. And those who grind, right? Those who, just are disciplined and they just work hard. Those are the ones who are gonna, be rewarded. So I guess we've just come to the end of the sales call. And I'm gonna stop recording now.